17b. Okay, so it should be in the art scroll. It's 17b. It's still 17b2. Okay. Yes, we're on 17b2 in the art scroll. It's towards the bottom of the page on 17b2. What is the chumrah? What is of chatat and asham and bechor? The Shimon said, which is the sin offering, or the asham, which is the guilt offering, is stricter. The bechor, the firstborn that's given to the kohen, and since it's given to the kohen, so if whatever stringency applies, that should certainly apply by the heavier weight kodesh kodashim. Again, chatat and asham, the sin offering and the guilt offering, are holy. It has to be eaten in the courtyard of the Beit HaMikdash. It can't be eaten outside. It has to be slaughtered in a specific area in the courtyard. There are certain restrictions, limitations, stringencies. Bechor, the firstborn that you give to the Kohen, does not have those certain the holy has. So, and therefore, if the firstborn has a certain law applied by the firstborn, should definitely apply by the holy stuff. But through the if something which has has a strict law, certainly something which is strong with their strict law. If the lightweight champion has a certain law, have that law. So that's what Rabbi Shimon said. And now to understand what is the stringency of the sin offering and the guilt offering over the firstborn. So the Gemara says, what is the of a chatat, of a korban that's a sin offering and a guilt offering, that's stronger than the firstborn? Shekain kachei kedoshim. The sin offering and the guilt offering are holy, and because that makes them more serious, more strict than the firstborn animal, which is considered light kosher kalim. So the Gemara says, Adarabba.
Hello, are you there?
Yeah. So we're gonna say a person will be obligated. We're gonna learn certain questions. Let's say the firstborn you can't eat outside of Yerushalayim. So let's see if that was what was the kavachomer that the Gemara wanted to use. The Gemara says, let's say a non-kohen would eat this guilt offering or this sin offering. So if someone's not a kohen, how do we know there's lashes for someone who is not a kohen who would eat this offering, this chatat, the sin offering? So the rabbi says, you know how I would know? I would know if a firstborn offering, if it's not eaten by a kohen, other than a kohen, there's lashes, and that's a light offering. So certainly the heavy offering Definitely, if it's eaten by a non-Kohen, will get lashes. So he would use the Kal Vachomer to teach you the concept of lashes in that particular situation. If let's say if it's a non-Kohen eating, and he's been warned, everything we're talking to give a guy lashes, the guy is warned and he's violating the warning, immediately following the warning, intentionally violating the warning. He knows what's at stake and he does it anyways. That's the time we give the guy lashes. There are people. I mean, hopefully most people will not be so defiant, but some people, they blow themselves up, so to speak. Some people know the consequences, but they wanna show that they don't care, and they're willing to be defiant. They're always those type of people. I would think it's very rare that a person in his right mind would want to be so defiant and it's fine. He knows there's a Jewish court. He knows he can get punished. He knows the guys, and he still does it. You know what? Sometimes people are angry. They might be angry. He might have an excuse to be angry. He creates an excuse. Of course, there's no excuse to be angry at God. And therefore, and how do we ever kill somebody for murder? We kill someone for murder, and he intentionally killed the person, and was warned that you're going to be killed. He was warned that if you kill this guy, we're going to kill him. He said, "I'm killing the guy anyways." Every time a guy is obligated death for anything, he knew what was coming to him, but he still did it anyways. So that's sometimes people in a state of anger or whatever it is, they decide not to control themselves. They don't care what the consequences are.
Rabbi, the
Yes.
Bechor is only is eaten by anyone.
The Bechor is eaten by the Kohen or the Kohen's wife, Kohen's family.
Only.
But the
Chatat
Nasham is only eaten by the male Kohanim, not his wife. Okay? Because it's holy. It's Kodesh Kodeshim.
Yes, so that's why before when we said it need to be in the Kilaim, right?
I mean, that's why
because the wife was not going there, maybe.
Okay, we would have to look exactly if it's based on that reason or some other reason. But here it seems like it's independent. It's just that it's holy, and therefore that's why it can't. The women can't eat it. So the Gemara says, Adarabba, on the contrary, Bechor Chamur, there is a stringency, this unique stringency of the firstborn over even the holy holies. Shekin Kedushato Merechem. Because it's holy from the womb. From the moment the firstborn animal is born, there's holiness on the animal. You can't work the animal. There's certain laws because it's holy. It's already designated to be a korban from the moment it is born. Therefore, perhaps, maybe, that's why the Torah has certain stringencies regarding the firstborn. So you can't learn even something which is holy from the firstborn, because the firstborn has a stringency over the holy. And because it has a stringency over that one, so you can't say that automatically whatever law is found by the firstborn would be found by holy. Because the firstborn has certain laws that the holy does not have. And maybe because it has that certain stringency, so maybe that's why it has that specific stringency and it manifests itself in some other halacha. Meaning to say, maybe because the firstborn is holy from its inception, from it comes into the world, maybe that's why the Torah is so particular. If someone other than a Kohen would eat it, would get lashes. But holy was something that was not holy from the time it was born. You had to make it holy. You had to consecrate and designate this animal for a korban, and then you made it holy. But since it was not holy from the time it came to the world, maybe it will not have that strictness of lashes if a non-Kohen eats it. Good morning, Nathan. It didn't have the same stringency that the other one had. Each item, each carbon had a different stringency that the other one doesn't have. So when each one has a quality that the other one doesn't have, so therefore you haven't established that one's the heavyweight. It could be one's a heavyweight in this aspect and one's a heavyweight in a different aspect. So it's not a slam dunk that therefore whatever applies to this one applies to that one, because this one has something over the other one. So that's it. What Rav Shimon, what Rav is doing, he's showing that you can't learn a Kal V'chomer from all the things that the Rav Shimon wanted to say. This is light, this is heavy. If the light one has this law, the heavy one certainly has this law, because he shows that every light one has something unique, has some sort of stringency about the light one that the heavy one doesn't have. So this one is heavy in this aspect, but the light one has a heaviness in a different aspect, has a stringency in a different aspect. And therefore you can't learn a Kal V'chomer. A Kal V'chomer would only be if in all aspects this is stronger than that one. If you could line up, if you could show me that in all aspects, this offering is stricter than that offering, so then I would be able to make a Kal V'chomer. If the light offering has a certain stringency, the heavy one definitely has a stringency. Because you show me that the heavy one is stronger in all aspects. But, however, if you can't show me that is stronger in every aspect, because you're showing me that the light one has something stricter than the heavy one, so then you cannot learn the heavy one from the light one, because the light one has something unique over the heavy one. Is that clear? Rav is trying to show there's a hole, there's a weakness in all of the Kal V'chomers. He knocks out all the Kal V'chomers of Shimon. Rav Shimon was trying to use a Kal V'chomer, and based on the Kal V'chomer, he was able to come out with certain laws, because he figured out certain laws based on the Kal V'chomer, and therefore the pasuk was available to teach us something new. But now Rav is saying, no, there's no Kal V'chomer. You have not established that one is stricter in all aspects than the other. Nathan, we are on 17b. We are 17b 2 on the top of the page. Umay chumra. Now the Gemara says the next one. Umay chumra the olah mechatat v'asham. What is the stringency of olah than a chatat and asham? We said that the carbon olah is you make a donation of a certain animal that's going to be completely consumed on the altar, on the mizbeach. And we said that's holier than chatat and asham, than a guilt offering and a sin offering, even though they're all categorized as holy. These are all holy holies. The olah is holy. The chatat is holy. The sin offering, the asham, the guilt offering is holy. All holy holies. But within holy is a winner. Within holy, there's someone that's stronger. Morning, Mark. There's someone that's strict. In the holy holies, there's the leader. Like among all the all-stars, there's a MVP, right? This one that sticks out. It's even though they're all-stars, but this one is the best all-star. So the Gemara is saying that here what is the holiest one? What is the more strict one? Olah. Now, what's unique about the olah that it's more strict? The Gemara says, "My chumra de olah mechatat v'asham shekein kalil." The olah, the fact that it's completely consumed on the altar, that it's not eaten at all by the Kohen, that's a very high level korban that is totally consumed on the Mizbeach. So therefore, that is in contrast to the sin offering or the guilt offering, the Kohen eats from it. So something that nobody has the right to eat from is not as holy as something, something that people, the Kohanim, have a right to eat from, is not as holy as something that's off limits. It's more stricter, right? It's stricter when no one could touch it, right? Let's say truma, only a Kohen can eat it, and not a Kohen can't eat it. That makes truma holier, stricter than other food, right? Because only a Kohen can eat it. I can't eat it. So that food is holier than the regular food. There's more restrictions. It's limited. So too, the Gemara says this korban ola is only no one can eat it. So we're much stricter than the sin offering and the guilt offering. Yeah, he wanted to use the Kal Vachomer to say, yeah. He says, if eating the ola out, even though the ola is not allowed to be eaten, the ola is supposed to be consumed on the altar. But what about if a guy decides that he wants to eat this ola? He's not allowed to eat it. How do we know that if he eats it outside the courtyard, that he's subject to lashes? Right? How do we know if he eats the ola outside the courtyard, he's subject to lashes? So that the Gemara says, we learn out from a Kal Vachomer from Chatat and Asham. A Chatat and Asham, the guilt offering, we're in 17b2. The guilt offering, which is, and the sin offering, they both need to be eaten in the courtyard. They can't be eaten outside the courtyard. Meaning, Jerusalem is not enough. You have to be in the courtyard to eat the holy stuff. And if you eat it outside the courtyard and you were warned, it's going to get lashes, malkut. And Rav Shimon says, if a chatat, if a sin offering and a guilt offering, which is not as strong as a korban olah, if they get lashes for eating outside the courtyard, certainly if someone eats the korban olah outside the courtyard, will get lashes. That's what he wanted to use the Kal Vachomer. And now the Gemara shoots back and says there's a flaw in your Kal Vachomer, Rabbi says. What's the flaw? He says, Ad Rabba, Chatat v'asham chamiri, the korban chatat and the asham have a stringency over the olah. What shekei mechapre, because they atone, they serve as an atonement. Meaning to say, why is the guy bringing the korban chatat? The guy bringing the korban chatat is he sinned. He desecrated the Shabbat unintentionally. He forgot it was Shabbat, or he didn't know this law was forbidden, right? And he had to bring this, or guilt offering. He swore. Let's say in certain cases he stole and he swore falsely about it. So he is obligated to bring this offering to serve as an atonement. A korban olah is generally when you make a donation. You on your own, you want to go ahead and bring the korban. So it's less. It doesn't have the same, something that's brought as voluntarily, you're not obligated. And therefore, right, so therefore, that's what the Gemara is saying. Therefore, the sin offering and the guilt offering is stricter in a certain sense because it's coming to create an atonement for somebody. So therefore, maybe that's why the Torah has this stringency by the sin offering, because the sin offering has some certain unique other stringency that this one doesn't have. So if you find that the Torah is very strong about Kohen, if you eat the sin offering outside the courtyard, that the Torah gives lashes, maybe the Torah is strict by that one because it has this aspect of atonement. But something which doesn't have the aspect of atonement, like an olah, maybe if you eat it outside the courtyard, maybe you won't get lashes. So you can't learn one from the other. It's not a good lineup. My father-in-law, Rabbi London, blessed memory, would say you have to line up the men. It's not a good lineup. You didn't line them up, because if this one is stricter, if the sin offering is stricter than the ola, the carbon that's brought completely on the mizbeach in one aspect, which is, let's say, atonement, maybe that's why it has that stringency of lashes if you eat it outside the courtyard. And therefore you can't learn an item which doesn't have the stringency of an offering of atonement from that one, because in a certain sense the other one is stricter, is stronger than this one. That's what the Gemara is saying. The Ritva asked the following question. The Ritva says, we know that if a person brings a carbon ola, it also serves as atonement. Let's say a person he didn't do a certain mitzvah, I say, he missed fill-in one day. So he brings an ola, it atones for that. Or I think if he has bad thoughts, he brings an ola to atone. Oh, very good. So the Ritva says, even though it's voluntary, even though it could serve morning Aaron as atonement, but an atonement that's only coming in an involuntary sense is lower than an atonement that's coming in an obligatory sense, Ritva says. So therefore, even though it could affect and create an atonement by bringing this ola, this carbon to ola, which is completely burnt on the altar, but since it's not something that the Torah mandated me to bring as an atonement, so therefore it's not as strong as the chatat, the sin offering, which I have to bring to atone for my
I have
sin.
to eat also. We need to eat the chatat, right? In order to do the chapara.
Very good. So the Gemara and the atonement will take place through the Kohanim eating from it, which is like you gave it to Hashem, and the Kohanim eat from the table of God. So therefore, by the Kohanim eating, it's like Hashem received it, and Hashem ate from it, so to speak, and therefore there's an atonement for the person. And then the Gemara says something very interesting coming up right now. V'kulu chamiri me'ola. All of the karbanot that are mentioned in the pasuk. In the pasuk, we have a whole listing of offerings. We have the firstborn offering, which is the bechor. We have the Thanksgiving offering, which is the toda. The shlomim, the peace offering. They all have a stringency. The Gemara now says that they all have a stringency over olah, meaning you would not be able to learn olah from you can't even learn olah, the carbon olah, from the weaker karbanos, meaning weaker karbanos that are kache kalim. Kache kalim are the lighter karbanos. What are kache kalim? Like the firstborn animal is called kache kalim, because it could be eaten anywhere. It could be anywhere in Jerusalem. The Thanksgiving offer could be eaten anywhere in Jerusalem. It has less stringencies. What do you want to say, Yaron?
Which one of the pasuk is designed by Ola? Vetid Roshecha?
Say it again about Ola. What do you say?
What's the name in the pasuk? Because you have a Bechor, Vikarecha, Vitzonecha. What's the name that defines Ola?
Nidarecha. When it says your vow means something you created the vow. You voluntarily brought this Ola. So the Gemara says that the pasuk, when it says, how do we know Ola? The Torah says you can't eat the Ola in a certain place, certain restriction, because it says Nidarecha. Nidarecha is referring to Ola. So the Gemara says everything has a stringency over Ola. Why? Even the lighter karbanot, right? The lighter karbanot, which you would say these are light karbanot. You could eat them anywhere in Jerusalem. You could slaughter it anywhere in the courtyard. It could be eaten by not only Kohanim, it could be eaten by even Yisrael. Non-Kohanim could eat it. But they all have something unique over Ola. What is the unique over Ola? The isbuhu shtei achilot. They have two eatings. What are the two eatings? The karban is eaten by the human being, and it's eaten by the altar, the mizbeach. Those are the two eatings. And Ola, the carbon Ola, the burnt offering, is only eaten by the Mizbeach. And what the Gemara says, Aaron? The Gemara says that there is a stringency of the lighter carbonot over the heavier carbonot. In what way? Because the lighter carbonot are not only eaten on the altar, it's also eaten by the people who bring the carbonot. And that is stricter. That is in a sense stricter than a korban, than an offering which is only eaten by the Mizbeach, by the altar. Now, the commentaries ask, the Gemara right beforehand had said that there was a stringency of Olah, that Reb Shimon was saying that Olah has a stringency, that an Olah is completely consumed on the altar. That is greater. We said earlier that the idea that something that's completely consumed is stricter than something which is not completely consumed, right? How would you look at something if you have a korban, an offering, and the one offering, I have two offerings here, A and B. A is completely goes on the altar. Nothing could be eaten even by the Kohanim, even by your cousins, right? The Kohanim. And then you have B, you have an animal that could be eaten by Kohanim, non-Kohanim, some of them could be eaten by non-Kohanim as well. How would you, one thing cannot be eaten at all by a human being, and one thing can be eaten by a human being. Which one would you say is stricter? The one that can't be eaten at all by the human being. Mark, would you say that? So now let's explain it. So is it, why would we say that something that's able to be eaten by not only eaten by the altar, but also by a person, what would be the logic to say that that's a stringency, that's a humrah over something which is only eaten on the altar? Only on the altar sounds like that it's more strict. That's the question. Mr. Haber, you hear the question? The question is, if you analyze these two cases, the animal which is the olah that goes completely on the altar, and the animal that's not completely on the altar, it's also eaten by human consumption. I would think that the one that has human consumption, that's a leniency, that it has the ability to be eaten by human as well. So how does the Gemara call this fact that it could be eaten by a human in addition to the altar, that some is eaten on the altar and some parts eaten by a human being? How does that make it more of a stringency than something which cannot be eaten by anybody? That is the question that the Ritva asks. Yes, Yaron.
But we can add also the khatat. We must bring it when we do an avera. The ola, you do nothing, and you wake up one day, you say, okay, I'm going to give a gift to Hashem, I'm going to bring a ola. The khatat, you need to do an avera.
That's true, but that was the Gemara's point before. But now the Gemara is coming from a different angle. The Gemara's angle that the stringency by the other offerings is the fact that a human being can also eat from it. Creates more of a stringency than the olah that cannot be eaten by a human being, which you would think. The question, what's the two sides? That's gonna be the question. So some want to say the following. Some want to say that regarding definitely the olah, the carbon olah, the one that's completely consumed in a certain sense is definitely stricter than the other carbonot, than the thing that's not completely consumed. But here, what are we trying to learn? What we're trying to learn over here is certain laws regarding where you can eat something, like we're trying to say certain laws about what's the law if you eat something outside the courtyard, right? If you eat something outside Jerusalem. We're trying to know, how do we know there's lashes from in case A, we want to know, how do you know there's lashes in a certain case regarding eating a certain item outside a certain area, right? So let's say it's now, and then you're going to tell me, and let's say the carbon ola. You want to know, how do you know if a person eats the carbon ola, which is not allowed to be eaten by a human being, he eats it outside the courtyard? And you want to know, how do we know that there's lashes? And then you're going to tell me, you know what? I can learn it from lighter carbonot. That lighter carbonot, or let's say you're eating it outside the Jerusalem. Lighter carbonot can't be eaten outside of Jerusalem. Certainly, the heavy carbon, the ola definitely will be lashes if it's eaten outside of Jerusalem. So to that, the Gemara says, you can't compare, because maybe if a carbon, an offering that has the ability to be eaten, like a firstborn or a Thanksgiving offering, since it has the ability to be eaten, so then maybe that's why we have, so the Torah gave certain prohibitions when you eat it outside the area where it's allowed to be eaten. But something which has no ability to be eaten at all, maybe the Torah is not going to go ahead and create you can't say, maybe the Torah is not giving you the prohibition for eating this item outside the, make a big difference. Right, maybe the Torah is not going to create a new prohibition. Something that, very good, Mark, something that can be eaten, let's say light carbonot. So the Torah tells you, hey, you can eat it, but you're only allowed to eat it in this area. But if you eat it outside this area, if you eat it outside of Jerusalem, there's less. But an item that has not even in the game, he's not even on the table about eating it, because you don't eat the ola. So therefore you can't say, hey, if the light one can't be eaten outside Jerusalem, is a violation. There's a violation. We're going to learn out from the heavy one ola. Maybe it's not comparable. They're not in the same league. This is a total different league, and maybe the Torah is not coming to give us a new violation for eating it outside the city. Right, there's a violation anyway for eating it all. So now you want to, right, in or out. And now you want to tell me the Torah is creating a new violation for eating it outside? Maybe the Torah is not creating that new violation. That's how the Ritva. It's still a violation, but maybe it's not this. It's not a new violation. We wanted to create a new violation. We wanted to create right, but we wanted to say this is going to be the prohibition, because there might be one violation. Let's explain. One violation is Torah says it has to be completely consumed on the altar, but that might not carry lashes. Why not? Because it's given in the asay, what you need to do in the positive. So maybe the Torah is just going to give you the person, he's punished for violating a positive commandment, but it might not come with lashes. But the other item, which cannot be eaten, which can be eaten in certain places, maybe that's the item Torah gives this extra violation that will carry with it lashes. And therefore the Ritva says, not necessarily you can learn the item which is eaten. You can't learn an ola, the item that's not eaten at all, from an item that is eaten. Because maybe the item that is eaten, maybe that's why the Torah gives this violation. An item that's not eaten at all. No, at least it's an assay. Because let's say the Torah says it has to be completely consumed. So therefore, you'll know you're not allowed to eat it, but it's not in the negative low. There's no don't on it. There's no don't eat it, outside. Right. In the case of the ola, what? There's no don't eat it. It's consumed. That's how it has to be. Right. So that's how the Ritva explains. Now, the Gemara now says, okay, now that we said all of this, by the way, it's very complicated Gemara, everybody, and hopefully everyone's trying our best to keep cheshbon, calculate the Gemara. So the Gemara concludes, Elamai delide imo, ke Rabbi Shimon. Why is it now that Rava has shown a hole, so to speak, like in football, right? There's a hole and the guy runs right through the hole, right? He showed a hole in the what? In the Kal Vachomer. So why did he say you should daven, you should pray that when your mother's giving birth, you should pray that the child should be like Reb Shimon. Why should someone pray to be like Reb Shimon if you're able to show that every Kal Vachomer of Reb Shimon, I have a question on every Kal Vachomer. So what's so great about the rabbi that you should say everywhere, you should pray that you should have a child like Reb Shimon, if what he says, there's a question on every statement that he says. So the Gemara says,
maybe he agree, like he said, yes, I did a mistake, He recognized his own...
Yeah, but we don't see that he agreed to all the Ravas. Remember, Rav is a late rabbi. And we don't find that Reb Shimon was an early rabbi, so they didn't have conversation. If we don't find that Reb Shimon changes his tune. So the Gemara says, because the way he understood, it's true, I disagree with him. I feel there's a flaw in each of the Kal Vachomer, but he held differently than me. He held that there's no flaw in the Kal Vachomer. And the only way he was able to come out with his bottom line conclusion was because he expounded on the verse, starting from the end of the verse, working his way backwards. And that creativity, and because he did it in that fashion, he was able to come up with these halachot. So even if he might not be correct, but I see some greatness, his greatness in the way he approaches something. And therefore, that's why a person should pray to have a child like him. We'll see next week, we'll go to the Rashi, he'll explain this point of what is the greatness of Reb Shimon's exposition. Have a great day, everybody.
Beautiful. Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Monday is regular time, 6:45. If that works for everybody, that makes sense? Okay, have a great day, everybody. You too. Beautiful Shabbat to everyone. Okay.
Bye-bye.
By the way, in the Brisker yeshivas, they learn a lot of kutshim. We're like learning kutshim, kabbanot. That's what they spend a lot of time on in Brisk. Okay.
Beautiful. Shabbat Shalom.
Yes, Yaron, Nathan wants to say hello to you.
Hey, Nathan.
What's up?
It's nice to see you.
See you soon.
Everything good?
Baruch Hashem. Take it. We need to have a good davening now. That's
Thank
what we need.